if the parliamentary sitting does go ahead at some time, I mean, in the coming weeks or months, what is likely to happen? Both if it succeeds, but also if it fails. I mean, will this coalition against Muhyiddin continue? I mean, the remnants of the Pakatan Harapan.
As I understand it, even if the government were to try to continue to block this motion by Dr. Mahathir, which I think is perfectly within their power to do so according to constitutional tradition. But the same Westminster constitutional tradition also dictates that, well, at some point the government were to put forward some sort of budget, for example, or even a supplementary budget to combat the COVID-19 pandemic and so on. And if that budget motion or supplementary budget bill and so on is voted down, that should be construed as a no confidence on the government of the day, and the government of the day should resign, right? So at some point, Muhyiddin would have to so-called face the music in terms of facing even just a constructive vote of no confidence. But I think my main contention here is Muhyiddin actually does not have to worry so much about this sort of attempts to chip away his power, to snipe at him from the opposition by all these motions of no confidence and so on. I think he would have to worry more about his own coalition partner, namely and chiefly UMNO. I think UMNO is doing its best to chip away Muhyiddin's power, to undermine Muhyiddin, but they are doing so in a very precarious manner. I think they would still like to, of course, keep the government alive by means of still retaining the majority in parliament, and perhaps even pinching a few members of parliament from the opposition, which I think they are able to do so. And at the same time, not having or slowly and gradually sort of push Muhyiddin down from the premiership.
Does the relative well-handling of COVID-19 help the incumbent government? Because I mean, there were concerns that, literally as the government was being formed out of nothing, because they weren't a pre-existing coalition, the impact of COVID became so clear in Malaysia. And now we're coming out and it seems better. And the government
I think the feelings are somewhat divided. In terms of the nitty-gritty technical aspects of containing COVID-19, I think people largely attribute that to the professional bureaucracy, the medical personnel, this Director General of Medical Services and so on. Now, when it comes to the socio-economic impacts, I think the opinions are somewhat divided. Muhyiddin essentially adopted a lot of what I would say Najib would have done, with Muhyiddin and myself having both worked for Najib before, namely to make sure that the so-called B40, those with the 40% lowest income group, they will be able to be tightened over this 2 months period by means of outright cash handouts, as well as other sort of rajas and so on. But I think for especially the small and medium enterprises, a lot of them are extremely displeased and up in arms because, this sort of responsibility to take care of the B40, besides being shouldered by the government, it's also to a large extent shifted to the shoulders of these small and medium enterprises, in the sense that they are strongly discouraged from firing their staff, their employees, but at the same time, the government's subsidies of wages and so on, it's not commensurate with the prohibition against firing employees and so on. So for SMEs, I think a lot of them are extremely displeased here.